Good morning. This is Woodman with the Grand Rising Morning Message for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. I want to talk about divine timing. Divine timing is often perceived as the alignment of events, the circumstances, and the opportunities in a way that is beyond our immediate control or understanding. It's the idea that there is a larger, unseen force orchestrating the unfolding of events in our lives. Here's why it's important to embrace divine timing and to not rush the process of manifestation. Number one, trust in the universe. Believing in divine timing requires trust in a higher power or universal order. It means acknowledging that there are forces at work beyond our comprehension and that these forces have our best interests at heart. Trusting in the universe can bring a sense of peace and acceptance, knowing that things will unfold as they are meant to. Number two, alignment with personal growth. Sometimes what we desire may not be what's best for us at a particular moment, or even at all, perhaps, but that's another story. Divine timing allows for personal growth and development to occur before certain desires can manifest. It ensures that we are actually and truly ready to receive what we've been asking for and that we can fully appreciate its significance. Synchronization with external forces. Often there are external factors at play that influence the timing of events. These could be related to other people, other circumstances, or even global events. Divine timing ensures that everything aligns perfectly, creating the most favorable conditions for our desires to manifest. Avoidance of unintended consequences. Rushing the manifestation process can lead to unintended consequences or missed opportunities. Divine timing takes into account all possible outcomes and ensures that the manifestation unfolds in a way that is ultimately beneficial for us and for those around us. Number five, patience and surrender. Embracing divine timing teaches us that the value of patience and the value of surrender both mean a great deal in the process. It reminds us that not everything is within our control, and there is wisdom in letting go and letting God let things unfold naturally. Practicing patience and surrender can bring inner peace and reduce stress and anxiety. In essence, divine timing invites us to surrender to the flow of life and trust that everything is happening exactly as it should. It encourages patience, acceptance, and a deeper connection to the universe and our own inner wisdom. Perhaps when we grow impatient, perhaps meditation is the key. Perhaps when we are constantly like, why not now? Why not now? Perhaps it's a time to go someplace quiet and reflect and continue to open ourselves up to different ideas and different possibilities as to what's really going on. If I could talk about a show, it would be like a Marvel show on Disney Plus. That would be the Loki series, and in particular, I'm talking about season two of Loki because what we discover in season two is that Loki starts to time slip through different time periods in the story overall, which actually allows him the benefit of understanding things from a divine standpoint, right? In other words, Loki, all of his life was always rushing to remind everyone that he was a god and that he had this glorious purpose. But if we harken back to the original Avengers movie of 2012, when Loki boasts this in front of the Hulk grabs him and smashes him several times on the floor of the tower to remind him that he's not as powerful as he thinks he is. And Hulk kind of says something like, "Oh, puny god," right? But really, that is actually very, very telling because we can tell at that stage in the journey, Loki had not really come into his godhood, right? He had aspirations to be a god, but he didn't truly understand what it would take to truly be a god, because being a god is much more than selfishness and craving power and wanting to just run the whole show for the sake of yourself. What actually led Loki to the actual path of his godhood was learning that the universe, or actually the multiverse, is a lot bigger than him or his concerns. But that didn't mean that he didn't have some way to influence events. So this is what I'm going to get at, why I bring up the Loki story of season two of the Disney Plus series, which was immensely popular. The season two finale was well received by all. That this was beautiful storytelling. So what happens is that we realize that Loki begins to age by hundreds, if not thousands of years, going through season two. And the reason for that being is that he realizes that the multiverse is threatening to collapse on itself because the path that was um, laid by He Who Remains, right? Who is just some sort of variant of Kang the Conqueror, but supposedly the one who survived the Time Wars, as they call them, that it's just not sustainable, right? That yes, he creates this process that seems to keep things stable for some time, right? I think they call it the loom, but eventually the loom becomes overtaxed and it reaches a point where it can no longer sustain the multiverse as it is. Why is that? Because previously, to keep the loom sustainable, they had to destroy whole universes. In other words, they would literally go in, because each time someone would take an action that would create a branch, that would create technically another universe, right? Each universe reflecting all the different possibilities that could happen from different situations. And so that's why it just became unsustainable. So Kang spent a lot of time using the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, to prune these branches. In other words, kill off whole universes. And this was found repulsive to Loki and his friends because, as Sylvie, another variant of Loki, points out to Loki, what gives them the right to decide, right? What gives them the right to say who lives and who dies? Every person that is in a branch reality, that is in a branch universe, is still a person just as much as the original branch or any other branches. So who gets to decide who lives or dies? And so they were looking for a way to save the different branches, the different realities, but they keep failing miserably. It just doesn't work. But Loki tries again and again because he realizes that with his time slipping ability, he gets a do over. And so he keeps doing it over and over. I mean, literally, he starts out not knowing anything about the science of time. And then he gets Ouroboros, right, the snake that eats its own tail. That's the name of the character in the Loki series. He gets that individual who is extremely advanced in the physics of time to teach him. Now, of course, Ouroboros initially is like, I don't think that's possible because it would take lifetimes. And Loki's like, I've got lifetimes because I can keep slipping back and forth in time such that I can keep avoiding destruction and keep learning. And he does that to keep learning and growing. He sees a lot of failures. He sees a lot of things that just don't work out. And that's why I'm relating this story to Divine Timing. You're probably saying, well, why is he sitting there taking up so much time to talk about a Marvel story? That's because he, in becoming a true God, learned to understand all of the different consequences that could result from different actions. And that he can't always control everyone's action. He particularly couldn't control Sylvie, right? Because one of the things that starts this I don't know, devolution to a situation where the loom is unable to sustain everything is that she ends up killing He Who Remains, right? Which occurred at the end of season one. And he tries to dissuade her from doing it because he feels like Maybe the only path forward is to keep he who remains alive. But eventually, over time, he realizes, no, that's just not going to be the way. He's won over by Sylvie's thought process, which is that, again, we shouldn't be deciding who lives and who dies. No one said he who remains was right. It's what he wanted people to believe was right, but they have to find another way. So he spends thousands of years looping over and over again, slipping back in time, so that he can learn thousands of years of knowledge about how time works, and then use that to his advantage to come up with an ultimate plan so that he can avoid all of these failed realities, all these failed consequences that he's experienced again and again and again, thousands, if not millions of times, maybe even more than that, right? He's done it so many times that, you know, he gets to remember each of those failed tries, each of those failed opportunities. And that's what puts him on the path of becoming a god, because the amount of knowledge he accumulates over an immortal lifetime creates this scenario where he just becomes like a genius. He's able to stop time, move time forward, which surprises He Who Remains at one point, right? Because He Who Remains is not the same way, right? He doesn't have the ability to retain memories of thousands and thousands of years, but Loki does, right? His Asgardian physiology, well, technically he is a frost giant who Odin cast magic on, and then that made him an immortal Asgardian. But nonetheless, by taking advantage of that, he's able to gain godhood. And in this sense, he now understands what divine timing is all about, because he realizes, just as Doctor Strange realized in Avengers Endgame, he realizes that there's, of these millions of possibilities, there's really only one that's going to lead them to where they need to get to. And that's that instead of fighting everything, trying to use science to fix everything, he decides, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I want my friends to stay alive. I love each of them. I care for Ouroboros. I care for Sylvie. I care for Mobius. All these other characters. I don't want anything bad to happen for them, so I sacrifice myself. So now he's truly understanding what it takes to be a god, right? Because now he's realizing that running the show is a bigger responsibility than just selfishness, than just personal gain, personal power. That he's got to sit at this focal central point of all these multiverses and keep them all together with his godlike strength. So he literally changes his outfit, which I guess is just like a moment that the fans are like rejoicing. Oh my God, look at him! He's transforming into traditional Loki. He's got the horns and the robes and the slippers, and then he takes this slab of stone and turns it into a golden throne, and he takes all of the timelines of the different realities into his own hands and sits in the throne, and he now becomes the person that keeps the multiverse together, right? In other words, rather than pruning different realities, rather than destroying whole universes, he will save them, but he's got to remain there at the center of it all, holding it all together with this immense knowledge that is godly, with this immense power which is also godly, that he can keep it all together, but then he's going to be gone. No one's going to see him anymore. Mobius is not going to see him anymore. Sylvie's not going to see him anymore. I mean, they may come across another Loki variant, but they're not going to come across that Loki, because that Loki now sits at the center of the multiverse and takes on the awesome but nonetheless limiting responsibility of holding the fabric of the multiverse together. Almost kind of like how Atlas had to have the world on his shoulders, right? And it's in a way it was a punishment that was designed to teach him that you want all this power, you want all this responsibility. Here, have it, but look at what cost it comes. But Loki takes this all in stride because he's happy. He's not burdened by um, the fact that he's going to be out of commission holding the multiverse together. He does it with pride. He does it with honor. And now the line that he originally recites when we first see him, way back in the early Marvel movies, where he came into play, whether it was in Thor or the Avengers, it now comes to pass, right? He's Loki, right? He's a prince of Asgard, and he is burdened with glorious purpose. When he said that before, it was really more of a self-aggrandizing, self-advocate sort of marketing thing, right? Like, I am this wonderful being, I'm tasked with this glorious purpose. But now he really realizes what that means to be someone who is tasked with glorious purpose, and it means that he has to give of himself to everyone around him so that everyone can live, everyone can survive. And in that sense, he truly understands what it is to be a god. So how does this relate to divine timing in the real world, right? This is a great fictional story, but how does this relate to the topic I've been discussing? How it relates to it is that the divine knows how things are going to turn out in different iterations of different events. Remember, we got multiple things going on for multiple people in multiple ways. So it's not just all about your story, it's about everyone's story. Everyone is part of this glue that holds what we know as reality together. We're all together here having a collective experience. So whether we like it or not, we can affect our own reality, but we also are still to some degree affected by the actions and reactions of others and how that will shape our reality. Right? In other words, we can't just go up to a group of people that doesn't like us and say, I will make you like me. It's like, we can try. I mean, we could try our best. And who knows, maybe we'll actually win them over. Or maybe not. And so that's something we can't control. It's beyond our hands. There are a lot of variables at play. And if you know anything about multivariable analysis, it can get very complicated very fast. It's almost like trying to imagine a matrix, but understanding that a matrix, like a typical matrix we think of, is more like a two-dimensional, right? It's like a square where you have the length and the width, and so you have. But then try to imagine now it becomes 3D, right? So now you actually can add depth to it as well, and then you can make it 4D, and you can make it 5D. So you can have all these different iterations of facets of these variables interacting with each other, and you're trying to find this this solution to a system of multiple equations, which can be very, very complicated, very, very fast. Even our most powerful computers won't be able to do it that quickly. And so when you think about it that way, the divine has to keep track of all of that. And therefore, the divine will be able to know, well, this will work out this way if we do this, because if I change a single variable out of how things are supposed to turn out here, it's not going to go the way that it needs to go. And so we're always rushing, rushing. Why not? Why not now? Why can't we have it now? Because it's complicated, right? But we trust in God, right? God has our best interest at heart. Just as Loki had the multiverse's best interest at heart, God has our best interest at heart. And so we have to trust in the process. We have to trust in God, that God is looking out for our best benefit for all of us. And we may not understand the wisdom behind it, but there is a method to the madness. So I know this is a pretty long Grand Rising morning message, but I really, really wanted to make sure I explained everything very carefully. I hope this helped. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please continue to support my channel content. I love you. Have a wonderful Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. Take care.